What is up? How's it going? This is Kazi from cleverprogrammer.com. What I wanted to cover in this series is Django. And what I wanted to cover was like the most commonly referenced Django documentation. I personally couldn't really find any videos of people like covering it, so I just wanted to do that because I see like everybody who starts learning Django, this is the first place you're going to go to, like the docs, the Django official documentation that shows you how to, do their getting started guide. And so I just want to kind of cover that in this series. This first video, we're going to do part 1, and then every video after that, we're going to just cover one part. So like the second video will cover part 2 of the documentation. And it's going to be done in like a more conversational style, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. So basically, Django at a glance, right? The beautiful thing about Django, what they're saying here, is that it lets you do web development tasks in a really fast way. So it's pretty intelligent. Like, for example, one of the awesome things about Django compared to any other framework, even like Node.js, right, which is very popular and it's a great framework for JavaScript. But what makes Django really cool is that it comes with a built-in and very robust admin interface. So if you're building an app for your client where, like, let's say you want to build a blogging app for somebody, right? Or e-commerce app for somebody in Python. If you build it using Django, it gives them an admin interface. So they can just go in there and like do stuff from there. Or you can manage the app for them from the admin interface. And imagine this, you had to spend 0 development time on doing that, which means that they're going to think you're a freaking magician and they're going to want to hire you. Be like, wow, how did this guy do this, right? So the admin thing is pretty cool. So in this right now, I just want to kind of cover the overview, and then we're going to jump into actually the parts of the tutorial, okay? And you're just going to follow me along. All right, so I'm going to cover this kind of touch on this. So if you have some experience with it, it will make a little bit of sense. So designing your models. So in Django, you can kind of design your database and models like this. You don't need to type in raw SQL queries or mess with too many ORMs. It's just simply classes. So it's literally like Python and object-oriented programming, and boom, you have stuff populating your database, which is pretty cool. It also has a built-in kind of API. So it says, as soon as your models are done, the API is created on the fly, no code generation necessary, okay? So here you can see that if you create a model, like let's say that you're creating an app, right? It has reporters and your app has articles, well, what you can just do is just be like, hey, reporter.objects.all, and it'll tell you how many reporters are there. For example, if you made a game app for, like, let's say Street Fighter, and you did fighter.objects.all, it might say empty set, which means you didn't put in any fighters yet, right? But then let's say you create a fighter or a reporter with the name John Smith, and you save it. Then when you check objects.all, all of a sudden it'll say, hey, reporter John Smith actually does exist. So that's pretty cool and a really nice way to interface with it. And then also you can search for things in a really easy way too. So you can search in your database with an ID, but a lot of the times a more human way to search instead of an ID is like searching with what does the name start with, or if the name contains the word myth, which Smith actually contains, and it'll match it. So then what you can do on your front end later is right now, like you're not going to have your client interface with your app from the code command line, right? What you can do later is then give them a front end and interface so then they can actually type it in the search bar and look up John Smith, or type in myth and they'll still find John Smith. Kind of like when you guys go to like Shopify stores or YouTube and type in a video's name, and even if you're off, it'll still find it. It's using this contained search mechanism, which Django comes built in with. Another thing I want to touch on is, so if you have your model, you can register them in the admin interface with just a simple line that says admin.site.register. And then that model, so let's say you create the article model, you can now register it in the admin interface. So then you can go and point and click in the admin interface and then delete or create new articles or whatnot, right? For example, when you have a WordPress blog, you know how you have an admin interface there, and you can create a new blog post or delete a post or edit. You have full CRUD functionality. Well, that's what it mimics by you just doing this, right? And that's you creating code from scratch. That's kind of powerful. And then obviously it lets you design your URLs, right? So how do you want your URLs to be? So for example, you can have it like, you know, myapp.com/articles/ the year followed by whatever, right? So you can create your own URL parameters and whatever. So this is pretty standard, but Django lets you do it in a really clean way, especially with Django 2.0, their latest release. All right, so writing your views is also pretty easy. You can have it just like return a HTTP response or HTML file you made. So for example, here you can see we render and return like this archive.html file. So if you create a HTML file in your templates, then it's going to be there. Again, if you're watching this and you're like, I'm a complete beginner and I have no idea what the heck you're talking about, don't worry. If this part is just not making any sense, skip a little bit ahead to the part where we jump into the tutorial. This is just for people who are maybe coming from other frameworks and they want to grasp how Python and Django is working. Okay, so you do need some experience to understand what I'm talking about here. And then yeah, templates are using Django templates, which is kind of like Jinja. I'll go into this later. So at this point, like, let's just get started. All right, so for your installation, all you really need to do is make sure you have Python installed. So for myself, I got Anaconda installed, which is what I would recommend for you. So if you do Anaconda download online, kind of install that. And that's pretty much all you need to go on. And then obviously install Django as well, which I'll show you in 1 second, okay? All right, and then you can go ahead and create a project. So we're gonna just get started from scratch and follow along with this tutorial. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm gonna open up my command line here. So I'm just gonna open up my terminal. If you're watching this, you can open up your CMD on Windows, or what I recommend installing is CMDER on your Windows. And yeah, basically just see if you have Anaconda installed, and if you do, and if you type in Conda, this thing should come up. Okay, if you don't have Anaconda installed, that's okay, you can still follow me along, but what I'm doing here is kind of like for best practice. So if you want to do it like the best practice way, then I recommend that you get Conda installed. Here, let me just make this a little bit smaller. All right, so basically what I want to do here is first check my so what I'm going to do is install my environment with Conda, okay? So I'm going to do and again, installing Anaconda and like making you understand everything about virtual environments is outside the scope of this specific tutorial. So you can look up stuff like how to install Anaconda on Windows or how to install Anaconda on a Mac. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do Conda, or first I'm gonna create this project. So let's see, I'm gonna go to my GitHub. All right, what I've also done is I have gone into preferences in my Atom, and I have went in under install, and I've installed terminal, Platformio IDE terminal, and I've installed it. So then the beauty of that is that when I'm coding, right, if I'm coding, I can just pop open my terminal right in here and I don't have to leave my Atom. So I will do Django admin start project my site, like that, and then go into my site. Okay, and then I will come over here and I will open, I'll go to GitHub, and then I'll go my site and then just click that. Okay, that's about it. This is just so if you guys are following along, like I don't want you to get confused. Okay, I'm gonna open up my Chrome. So they're saying that this is pretty much what it should look like, and for us it does look like that, right? We have my site and it has all these files inside of it, and you can see my site and it has all these files inside of that. Okay. And then they say, hey, just go ahead and run python manage.py run server. So let's go ahead and give that a try. So I'm going to open up my terminal, and how I do that, how I open up that little prompt, is by doing Command Shift P. For you on Windows, that might be a different command, like maybe Control Shift P. But yeah, for me, that opens it up, and then I just click terminal, pops open my terminal. I'm going to do conda create -- name my site Python is equal to 3.6. And I will activate this environment. Okay. And now I will install Django. Okay. So if I do pip freeze, it should show me that Django and a bunch of other stuff is installed. Django right here, so we're good. All right, I'm just gonna make the fonts bigger so you guys can see it a lot easier. Okay, so now we're gonna try to run this python manage.py run server, and we will go to this URL on our Chrome and see if it shows us something. Okay, cool. So it says install works successfully. Congratulations. And believe it or not, this is actually pretty exciting because this is the first hint that your app is actually running. Okay. Now to this, we're going to add a lot more features to it and make it really awesome. But right now it's being actually served over your local host and it's running. Okay. And once we get it to a point where it's doing a lot of cool stuff, we'll develop it locally, and then later on what you can even do is then put it online, so then anybody in the world can use your Django app. Let's go back and let's take a look at what the tutorial is telling us to do at this point. So it says that you should see this stuff, and we do. And then it says ignore the warning about unapplied database migrations for now. We'll deal with the database shortly. Cool. And it says we've started a Django development server, which is a lightweight web server written purely in Python. We've included this with Django so you can develop things rapidly without having to deal with configuring a production server such as Apache until you're ready for production. Cool. All right, and they say don't use the server in anything resembling a production environment. It's intended for developing. Cool, no problem. All right. And now they want us to get started on creating the polls app. Now that your environment, a project is set up, you're set to start doing work. Each application you write in Django consists of a Python package that follows a certain convention. Django comes with a utility that automatically generates the basic directory structure of an app, so you can focus on writing code rather than creating directories. Cool. All right, projects versus apps. So what's the difference between a project and an app? Now, the cool thing with Django is that everything is considered an app. Okay, so let's say that you create a website that has a blog, that has an e-commerce capability. Now, the blog is considered so let's say you create this website with Django, right? The blog would be considered a Django app, and your e-commerce store would actually be considered a different Django app. Okay, so there'd be two different apps that your web application is comprised of. That's how Django handles the logic. So basically it's one project that has multiple apps inside of it. Okay, that's pretty much what they're saying here. Okay, so an app is a web application that does something. Okay, so a web blog system, a database of public records, or a simple poll app. A project is a collection of configuration apps for a particular website. A project can contain multiple apps. An app can be in multiple projects. So you can have one app that you build for one project, and you can actually have it in different projects that you're doing, which is really cool. It's like plug and chug. Your apps can live anywhere on your Python path. In this tutorial, we'll create our poll app right next to your manage.py file so that it can be imported as its own top-level module rather than a sub-module of my site. Okay. To create your app, make sure you're in the same directory as manage.py and type this command. Okay. So now this command, Python manage.py start app polls, we're going to do that, okay? So we're going to break our server with Control-C. Okay, so I did that. I'm going to hit ls, and it looks like I'm at the same level as my manage.py file. And if I hit pwd, it'll show me where I'm at. And now I'm going to do Python manage.py start app, and the app is called polls, I believe. Let's double check. Okay, so now our polls app is created, and let's just take a look inside of polls. Okay, so inside of polls, you can see that we have a bunch of, actually, let's look right over here. It's easier that way. So polls comes with migrations, init.py, admin, apps, models, tests, views. There's a lot of things that polls comes up with automatically, which is really nice. But a lot of this stuff is, just kind of empty. The main things that you're gonna be working with is models and views. Okay, that's the thing you're gonna be working with like all the time. When you're developing apps for yourself, later you're also gonna be playing around you're gonna be adding stuff to test to make sure you can test your app as you're building it. And then migrations is gonna be important because it's gonna kind of let you time travel in your database. So when we keep making changes to your database with migrations, you can like roll forward to a certain time, but let's say like things get really messed up, you can roll back to a previous point in time. All right, so this directory structure will house the poll application. So this is the directory structure that we actually saw, okay? And now they want us to write our first view. A view is what lets you go to a specific URL and then it returns some kind of response, okay? So for example, Django works off of something called MVT, which is called Model View Templates. Your normal apps, Node.js or whatever, those frameworks work off of MVC, Model View Controller. So to give you an example of this in real life is when you go to google.com when you go to google.com and you type in like cats, right? Or let's say you go to google.com and you type in whatever, the response that comes to you, right? That maps to the current URL you're at. So how does Google know to show you the Google logo and the Google homepage when you go to google.com, right? So google.com, when you type it in, it sees what your current URL path is. Then it goes into the Google code base, and then it finds this HTML file that says, if somebody goes to this path that says google.com, then show them this HTML page that has Google's image on it, followed by a search bar, and then shows you that, okay? So it returns a response. You request something, and it returns a response. If you go to apple.com/watches or watch, I don't know if that's actually a real Apple URL, but like let's just say you're trying to get an Apple Watch, okay? So if you go to apple.com/watch, how would it return to you all of their watches, right? So what actually happens is apple.com/watch will match that path in their code base, and then it'll see if there is a HTML file that corresponds to it, and then it'll show you that HTML file, okay, as a response. And that's essentially what we're going to do, but we're going to have a very basic version of it. So we're going to go in our polls/views.py. So I'm in my polls, and I'm going to go in my views.py. So when they say it like this, polls/views.py, that's what they mean. And in here, I'm going to say from django.http, import HTTP response, right? And then I'm going to go here. I'll say define index request. So take in a request and then return an HTTP response, and I will say hello world, you're at the, let's do it with double quotes because hello world, you're, what is it, at the polls index, right? And then they have a little comma here. This doesn't matter so much. It's just a string, so it doesn't matter what you do. Make sure you always save what you're doing because otherwise it won't take any effect. So make sure you do Control S or Command S the whole time. So I just created this, but the thing is that it's not going to show up. So now what I need to do is like tell my app that when somebody goes to the home page, yo, you got to show this thing right here. Okay. This is the simplest view possible in Django. To call the view, we need to map it to a URL, and for this we need a URL conf or URL configuration. To create a URL conf in the polls directory, create a file called urls.py. Your app directory should now look like this. So now notice there's a urls.py here, which was not there before. Okay, so we're gonna go in our polls, right click here, and create a new file and call it urls.py. Okay. And now in our urls.py, we gotta add from Django.urls import path, from Django.urls import path. And then we're gonna do from import views. And then we're gonna do URL patterns. So what you want to do is try not to indent, but use 4 spaces instead. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it doesn't automatically bring you to the right place. All right, and I want to do path. So if somebody goes to the empty path, then I want you to go into our views file and use the index function, and we're gonna give it a name index. Okay. So what does this mean? If somebody goes to, let's say your website is called john.com, right? Somebody goes to john.com followed by nothing else. So not like john.com/article/blog, none of that. It's just john.com, your homepage. What happens? Well, then we say, go into the views file and run the index function. So under views, this is the index function. I'll run that. We're naming it index. So then later, if we want to, from our templates or HTML, if we want to refer to this specific URL path, we can just call it by index and it'll reference it. Okay, the next step is to point the root URL configuration at the polls.urls module. Okay, so URL conf, and we got to point it to this. So, all right, in my site /urls.py, add an import for Django.urls.include and insert include in the URL patterns list. So you have this. So we're going to go in our my site /urls right here. And in here, we're going to add this line, okay? Because we're saying if somebody goes to the path polls, then run the polls URLs. Okay, so from Django contrib import admin, from Django import, from Django.urls import include, comma path. Okay, and that's because we're gonna do the include thing right now, just like that. Okay, and then hit save. So if somebody types in john.com/polls, now we'll say, hey, try to match this pattern by going to the polls.urls file. Well, where is that? That's in the polls app, and it's this file right here. So then it'll go to this file, and then it'll match this first guy, and it'll say, okay, I'm gonna run the home function. Okay, so anytime somebody goes to anything polls, it'll refer it to that file, that URLs file. All right, this is what they're basically saying here. The include function allows referencing other URL confs. Whenever Django encounters include, it chops off whatever part of the URL matched up to that point and sends the remaining string to the included URL conf for further processing. The idea behind include is to make it easy to plug and play URLs. Since polls are in their own URL conf, they can be placed under or any path, and the app will still work. Okay. You have now wired. So now it says you should always use include when you include other URL patterns. Okay. And now it says you have now wired an index view into the, let's verify it's working. Run the following command. Okay. So now we're going to run this thing. And we'll go to our local host or this HTTP port over here and hit run. And now we are getting an error. Oh, yes. Basically, you have to do /polls. Okay, of course. Because it's not a home page thing that we've added it to. Because I just saw this and I was like, oh, home page. But it's because we got to go to the polls path. Okay, so everything after, so it's like when you put this online, when you put this app online, right, it'll essentially be like yourapp.com/polls is where you'll have to go to, and then it'll know what to do. Okay, so it's saying you're at the polls index, and that's exactly what we see now. Cool. Go to this in your browser and you should see the text which you define in the index. The path function is passed 4 arguments, 2 required, route and view, and 2 optional. At this point, it's worth reviewing what these arguments are for. All right, so we're not going to go into too much detail. It's going to be like still casual, and we're going to keep moving forward. All right, awesome. I hope you were excited watching it up until this point. Now, in the next video, we're going to go to part 2. Before I let you go, I do want to let you know that I have a course called A Profitable Programmer coming up, where if you're more serious about, becoming a web developer, learning Django more in depth, and especially learning how to get clients with Django and Python and to start working as a developer, then definitely go to this page. We'll put this link right over here, and basically I want you to sign up and put your email for our VIP waitlist. So then you're the first one to know when this course opens up. And also, I'll send you my resources that help me become a developer in less than 3 months. And I'll give you that as a gift for free, okay, for joining this waitlist. With that said, that's it. And I'll see you in part 2 of this tutorial. For those of you guys wondering, what the hell is this choice.set thing? It actually comes built in, and you can actually change that by passing in a related name keyword argument when you're creating the question attribute, and you could give it whatever name you want.